The day after the elections, the headline read, "Athletes of color paved way for Barack Obama's run." Sportswriter Mike Bianchi of the Orlando Sentinel continued, quote, "If you're searching for tangible reasons why it became possible for Barack Obama to make his historic run at the presidency of the United States, then look no further than the golf course, basketball court, or football field." Close quote. Well, our next guest, Dave Zirin, called those comments embarrassingly wrong and asked, "Are you joking?" Dave writes on the collision of sports and politics in his weekly online column, The Edge of Sports. He writes regularly for The Nation magazine and is the author of A People's History of Sports in the United States, part of Howard Zinn's People's History series. Welcome back to the program, Dave. Great to have you.
Great to be here, Laura. Thank you.
So, was he joking?
He was not joking, and I should say that everything I've heard about Mike Bianchi is that he's a good guy, his heart is in the right place, he was feeling irrationally exuberant about Obama's victory, and wanted to speak about perhaps sports' role in paving the way.
Well, now you do write about the collision between sports and politics. This sort of felt like one of those examples where he was trying to say a good thing. I mean, he was trying to talk about the relevance of sports to politics. You believe in that?
I do believe in that, and I also believe that sports can have, at times, tremendous symbolic value in terms of pushing forward political arguments and debates, particularly around issues of oppression, around gender, people of color, sexuality. Sports can play a tremendously symbolic role. But in this case, like I said, and I stand by this, he was embarrassingly wrong for three reasons. The first reason is just because there is a world of difference between admiring an African American's ability to play a sport or entertain and accepting their political leadership. I mean, if it was as simple as cheering for black athletes, then we would have seen African American politicians rise to the fore 100 years ago, 150 years ago. I mean, there were African American athletes during the times of slavery that would draw big crowds to plantations. So there is no direct correlation between cheering for somebody and then actually accepting their political leadership. It just doesn't work that way historically. The second reason why I think he's so wrong is that historically also when you see athletes who've actually tried to be political, they haven't been met with applause by white fans who say, "Hey, wow, I love cheering for the way you play. Now I love cheering for your words and ideas." They've actually been the victims of some of the most serious backlashes. I mean, everybody from Muhammad Ali to Billie Jean King. I mean, this story is well known.
The whole kind of shut up and play phenomenon.
Exactly, because shut up and play does not equal political leadership. But the last reason, and to me the most trenchant reason why I think Bianchi was so off base, are the examples that he cites for the people who paved the way. Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan, NFL football coach Tony Dungy. Now, first let's talk about Woods and Jordan. They are in a lot of ways the exemplars of the apolitical athlete. They are the people who have been the great symbols. You could call them the Mount Rushmore, or I call them the Mount Hushmore, of the people who do just shut up and play, the people who have sent a message to a generation of athletes that the goal is to make money, and how you keep score is what your bank account looks like.
Now, was it totally unfair for Bianchi to mention Michael Jordan in particular, given that Michael Jordan is somebody that actually Barack Obama did refer to? He was actually, wasn't he on TV right after the election?
Well, the thing about Jordan, though, is you got to look at the whole body of work. In 1996, Michael Jordan declined taking a stand against the old segregationist senator from his home state, North Carolina, Jesse Helms, by saying famously, "Republicans buy sneakers too." And that in a lot of ways has become the guiding ethos for athletes until recently, where I really do think that wall has been obliterated. But before we talk about that and the way athletes have actually, like there's so many athletes Bianchi could have cited in this election cycle actually did speak out. And he didn't have to use Woods and Jordan. I have to say something about Tony Dungy, though, because Tony Dungy was somebody who spoke very eloquently about Barack Obama. Tony Dungy is somebody who, as the first African-American NFL coach to win a Super Bowl, certainly is a trailblazer in a way that few other people are in the world of sports. But Tony Dungy is also somebody who's been very closely connected to James Dobson's organization, Focus on the Family, and a lot of the anti-gay marriage movements that have occurred, particularly in his state of Indiana. And I think it's worth saying, political content has to matter here. I mean, why did people wait online for so many hours? I think it was to reject the apolitical nature of Woods and Jordan and the right-wing evangelical bigotry that Tony Dungy has stood with.
But just to give Bianchi his moment here, I mean, just to go back to his original claim, which is that people getting used to seeing maybe multiracial leadership prowess in the form of Tiger Woods in golf. you're saying that has no relationship with their comfort level when it comes to political control?
I think when you look at the fact that Barack Obama was just elected president, and now the number of African-American senators has gone from 1 to 0.
Well, we don't know yet.
We don't know yet.
Senator
Yes.
to be appointed.
Yes, but by the governor, and we'll see who gets. So it might go back to 0 to 1.
Might go to 1.
Yes, I think it's important for us to be a little bit circumspect about this direct correlation between cheering for somebody's play and then actually accepting their political leadership.
You wrote recently in your column about a guy who did try to make a political statement. Not a very sharp one, but he tried, and the results weren't good. Brandon Marshall, tell us about it.
To me, this is a fascinating story because Brandon Marshall is a wide receiver for the Denver Broncos. He catches what becomes a game-winning touchdown the Thursday after Obama's election, 1:22 left. And this is a time where you just want to spike the ball, go to the sideline, call it a day. But Brandon Marshall had been waiting all game to score a touchdown. And maybe this would have been better if his team was up 41-0 and not this very sharp moment in the game. But he had his moment, he scored the touchdown, and he attempted to take out a black and white glove and hold it up to the heavens a la Tommy Smith and John Carlos at the 1968 Olympics as a way to speak about the hope for the progress that had been made in the 40 years since 1968.
And this was a historical year for America, and you know, when we look at the 44th president, Barack Obama, he inspired me, and not just me and my teammates, but the nation. And back in the 68 Olympics, you know, a couple of our track stars sat on the podium and they threw up the Black Panther sign just for Black power and liberation. But in my own way, I wanted to pay respect to our nation and the progress we made. So I got a white glove painted black half and half. And it's not about Black power, and it's not about white or black. It's about USA, red, white, and blue. And that's what I was going to do.
And I'll tell you, after the fact, when John Carlos and Tommy Smith, and I spoke to John Carlos, after they heard that he was going to do this, they really clap their hands. They think it's great. They say, let the moment live. It's not just our moment. It's not just a museum piece from 1968. Make it live. Make it breathe. If that's what you think we've become in the last 40 years, if you think Obama represents progress from those days, then please, by all means, raise your fist. The problem was he never got the chance. First, two teammates surrounded him and said, no, don't do that, because it would mean an immediate 15-yard penalty with, they're only up 4 points, 1:22 left. They didn't want to risk the game. I think on some level you can say that might be defensible in the heat of the moment. They're worried about the game. But the thing that to me is indefensible was the way a lot of the mainstream media then came down on Brandon Marshall like a ton of bricks, saying like, who does he think he is? One person even wrote, this is an example of the very selfishness that Obama's victory is supposed to represent a break from, as if he's trying to just draw attention to himself and not worry about the team. That to me is a very ugly interpretation of it, because to me what Marshall was doing was as if to say, you know what, sports is great and all, but something even bigger and more important happened this week, and I want to use this platform to pay homage to that. And so I think there should have been a lot more charity to what he was trying to do and what he was trying to represent, as opposed to what did happen, which was, like I said, a ton of bricks on Brandon Marshall.